people are asking these questions, but they don't know what a crawl space is. So we have to capture them in that discovery funnel up front before they know they need the service and really build that brand authority and trust. So that's one of our biggest goals in like the kind of organic marketing for sure.
Welcome to the Art of Franchise Marketing. Each episode takes a deep dive into the franchise space and explores how the biggest and best brands handle national branding, franchise development, employee recruitment, and localized marketing on a daily basis. This podcast is brought to you by Netsertive, a localized digital marketing partner for franchise networks. Netsertive's Madeleine Park talks shop with franchise executives to discuss what's working, what's not, and answers the question, what else can you be doing to excel at the art of franchise marketing?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art of Franchise Marketing. My name is Maddie. I'm the Director of Marketing at Netsertive, and today we have Johnnie Matthews, the Director of Digital Marketing at Crawl Space Medic. Johnnie, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Madeleine. Excited to be here.
Yeah, so I'm super excited to let the people know about what you guys do, because the name itself, Crawl Space Medic, just one, gives me claustrophobia, and two, piques my interest because I also own home service franchises, and I'm like, ooh, is this a niche I need to get into, or I should get my staff into, because it sounds needed but also difficult. So why don't we start? You can give us a background on yourself, how you got to Crawl Space Medic, and home service franchising.
Yeah, so I started in digital marketing early on in life. Like I was building websites and stuff when I was a kid, you know what I mean? And then I played music a lot and toured a lot. So I learned a lot of digital marketing stuff through the music industry. So that was kind of where I, sowed my oats, if you will, in it. And then, decided to get out of a van and into an office at some point in my life. And I entered the agency model, kind of working with a creative group called Trevitz Creative Plus. So we did a lot of branding and stuff like that. And one of our companies here at Home Brands, because we do have 5 brands, was Punchless Pros. They were a client of mine. So I solved some of their issues, rebuilt their site. And I just saw this recurring theme with small home service, especially home service companies in South Carolina, where, they were kind of getting hoodooed by like SEO people and all this stuff. So I had a background in project management and web development, but I just saw this like need for SEO in our area. Right. So I just started kind of nerding out on it, honestly. And I'm pretty competitive. So like naturally it was a way to be digitally competitive. You know what I mean? So that was super fun when I started just like destroying these big groups with the mom and pop shops in Google rankings, So Punchless Pros was a client of mine, and they're owned by Home Brands, which is Crawl Space Medic is part of. And, I was actually leaving the agency to kind of go out and do my own thing. And I was letting all my clients know, and they were like, "Well, hey man, why don't we have some dinner?" So yeah, that's how I got here.
So Johnnie, I'll let you finish, but I must say I have heard everyone in their mother's background when it comes to how they got into franchising, and you're the first that comes from musician in a van to the director of digital marketing. So
he was a rock.
Yeah. Yeah, those were the wild days. Yeah, we're still wilding out over here though. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my story. I've been on about a year and 4 months now, and came in and just kind of, honestly, like made a ballsy move and kind of gutted a lot of what Crawl Space Medic was doing. It was kind of a risky move, but we've seen the benefits from it. I just totally removed the old site and all the old pages that were already indexed and already ranking in a lot of markets, gutted it and started from the ground up. And it was a scary thing to do. I know a lot of people are scared when they have to make big changes in their marketing or their web presence, but it's paid off really well so far. So, that's my story. Yeah.
All right. And we'll pass it over to John. John, tell us how you got to be the co-founder of Crawl Space Medic.
It sounds amazing, doesn't it? It's not quite as sexy as it sounds sometimes, but so about 8 years ago, Madeleine, my partner, Evan Wilson, and I, he's a home builder here in Columbia, South Carolina. And he started noticing prior to this kind of a need in the market for a branded, specialized company in crawl space work. And a lot of the kind of what brought to the surface was when people are selling houses and buying houses, there's a lot of back and forth on the moisture in a crawl space or basement, the fungal growth, mold, termite damage, dry rot damage to the framing, but standing water, all the stuff that comes up on an inspection report. And in our market, Columbia, we noticed, those things were typically serviced by a pest control company. And we decided, like, what would it be like? We thought there's enough demand out there from talking to real estate agents we knew. What would it look like to have a branded company that provided these services to fix crawl spaces? And at first, it was really just focused on the real estate community. And then it started to grow into directly to the end consumer homeowners as we started doing digital and got our name out. And it's really just a service. It's a neat service because it's really only 5 or 6 things we do, which is vapor barriers and encapsulations are kind of the most known things to control moisture. But then in certain markets, a lot of drains and sump pumps and basements and crawl spaces. But then also about 40% of our business system wide is doing structural repairs, which is framing under homes from termite damage or long-term moisture damage, which is dry rot. And so Evan and I are both growth guys. And so we started in Columbia. It went great. Launched Charlotte, then launched Greenville, South Carolina, which is a nice market. And then as we kind of started thinking, what's the path of growth for us? We got these 3 corporate locations. We landed on franchising. We worked with the iFranchise Group out of Chicago to develop our system. They did their whole process, which was great. Dave Hood and his team were excellent. And we got going and launched our first franchise in, I think it was 2015 in the Atlanta area. And then Wilmington, North Carolina was next. And then from there, we kind of started selling franchises and launching franchises. And currently we have 19 units. 8 of those are corporate units and the rest of them are franchise units. And that comprises, since it's a franchising podcast, people will understand this. That's about 42 territories in those units that are operational. We're excited. We have this summer, we're gonna open Denver, Colorado, or not Denver, but Fort Collins area, which is north of Denver. Is our first. We went to St. Louis middle of last year. And then, we keep moving west because of just the demand in the market and the success of our brand. So that's kind of how I got here, just to kind of a slow growth. And we've made some really good moves, bringing Johnnie on. We'd always outsource our SEO and our digital marketing. We kind of made a decision about a year and a half ago. What if we specifically the SEO and the content side, if we brought that in-house? And that's greatly improved our knowledge of how to really promote our brand digitally on the marketing side. And it's improved everything in our business and allowed us to grow. And so having a source in-house like Johnnie's been great, a knowledge base as we've grown. And so that's how we got here. But it's exciting. We keep growing and just doing our thing under people's houses.
No, I think that's great because, I own some, home cleaning and mosquito and tick and exterior cleaning. And it is, aside from the brand where the techs wear kilts, it is this least sexy businesses to be in, these home services where people are like, I don't really want to do that. Like no one wakes up one day and they're like, I'm going to be a crawl space medic. That's my passion. But the recurring revenue, the value you're bringing is really is crucial, especially in these, suburban or, areas or whatnot. So I'm curious, do I have a crawl space? What is a crawl space?
Yes.
For people who have no idea.
Great.
Because I have a built out basement.
Yep.
I don't think I have an attic. Maybe I do. There's a door somewhere, but I'm not going in there. That's scary.
Yep.
So what is a crawl space?
Yes. So that's a good question. So in the building industry, which Northeast is the oldest part of the country. And a lot of people have basements there, but there are a lot of crawl spaces as you move out in the suburbs. A crawl space is really, as builders figured out cheaper ways to build good houses and started understanding kind of frost. I don't want to get real technical and geeky, but like frost depth, where, how deep the frost depth is for the foundation. They realize like there's some areas we could really build crawl spaces and not have to dig a basement. And so crawl space, the concept is the basement, which is the under your house, that becomes a crawl space, is really just a built up area that you crawl in Madeleine, just like your basement would in the Northeast or in the suburbs of the Northeast. It houses the plumbing, the HVAC, the electrical, the structure, the framing. And so it's typically a 2 foot or 3 foot area under the house that houses all that stuff. And it's right under your floor. And you're not alone. People call us all the time, like, I don't even know if I have a crawl space. Right. And so, it's like, okay, go outside, look at your house. Is there vents? Is there a little door? There's usually there's a little door. They're like, oh yeah, I do have a door. That means you have a crawl space. If you open it, okay, yeah, there's a little 36-inch crawl area. And a lot of houses have basements. And then if they put an addition on, that'll be on a crawl space, because it's a more economical way to build a house or put an addition on. And so as we've moved more into the north, and we're in Columbus, Ohio, and St. Louis, and then parts of Virginia, we've rebranded as Crawl Space Medic and Basement Pros, because in the same repairs we started doing in crawl space easily translates into the repair in basements as well. So this is the same concept. It really just in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, it became a more economical way to build houses in the suburbs of these big cities. And then it's kind of become the norm. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And so your techs crawl in there?
Yeah. Yeah. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Fun
animals and bugs.
Yeah. Fun fact. My 14-year-old son just started his first job today as a crawl space tech, so he's going out on a cruise. So a lot of it's cleaning out, pulling out old insulation, cleaning out the area, which the education's really grown even since we've been in the industry of the things in the crawl space, whether it's your insulation. Think about it this way, Malin, all the things in your house that make your house enjoyable, your heating and air, your electrical, your plumbing, the foundation and structure, all things that make your house great for you and your family, they're all housed and they operate in the crawl space or basement. And so when that area is clean, dry, healthy, it makes all those systems operate at a higher level, particularly HVAC system. 40 to 50% of the air your family breathes it's commingled with your crawl space or basement air. So if your crawl space looks like something out of a horror movie,
it's all I can picture.
Yes. Like, okay, this would be a good place to film, Friday the 13th, part 7. That air is flowing into your house, and your kids, your family are breathing it. And it's just not a conducive environment for actually a healthy home, which is where you and your family live. And so, we're in houses, cleaning them out, making them dry. It's a customized solution. Some houses, it's like, hey, we just need to clean this out, put a vapor barrier down to control moisture in and out. I mean, some are pretty major. There's a lot of groundwater where it's drains and pumps, and controlling water and moisture is the main thing.
I imagine your techs have probably run into some interesting stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
In crawl spaces.
Yeah, there's actually an they actually, here in Columbia, they have a wall where they bring back, antique bottles, mummified animals, cats, raccoons, possums, guns, old antique guns, everything you can imagine,
Oh my gosh. I was like, I have heard stories about stuff that like our maids, what we call them, our pros, go in the house in an active living area. Like I can't even imagine in like a crawl space.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I was in one 6 or 7 months ago, and y'all may be younger than. I know Johnny's younger than me, Madeline, but the old like overhead projectors you had in school that just sat on like a wheel thing, and you put the train.
Yeah.
There was for some reason there was one of those in a crawl space. And I thought, man, this is an antique. I should like preserve this thing. So, but people will just throw all kinds of stuff down there because they don't want to throw things away. And it's like, man,
It seems like the start of like Crawl Space Medic horror story. All of a
Yes,
sudden
yes.
the projector starts playing
Oh, yeah.
and things are crawling around.
Oh yeah, and actually, you know, on social media, Johnny will confirm this. The people look at the most are just the weird things we find in crawl spaces. You know,
Yeah, they like to see the train wreck.
yeah, train
Yeah.
wrecks, right?
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, this was such a great background. I feel like I'm gonna go tell my husband immediately. Go see if we have a crawl space and figure it out.
Yeah.
Like call someone.
Yeah.
I don't think you guys are in the Philly market yet, but when you are,
We're not. We come look at
come
it.
crawl in my crawl space, John.
Yes, I'd do it. I'd do it.
All right. So now getting back to our marketing first topic, nuances of your industry. So what are some obstacles you face while trying to market in your industry? Because I imagine it is an individual niche, but I think that there's a lot of education that has to be surrounded by. And also, you know, how are you competing with, you know, maybe the pest services or the construction services that are trying to do it as an add-on service? You know, how do you do that?
Yeah, so we actually kind of already addressed one of the biggest obstacles in marketing, and that's education. I mean, what is a crawl space? You know? And not only what is a crawl space, but why do I need to spend $4,000 to make it a better crawl space, right? Because that's a big hurdle. So educating people about like the health of their home, and it's really about like protecting their investment, because like, you know, spending $3,000 to get a vapor barrier, a DQ, and a sump pump put in, you know, to prevent moisture, you know, seems like a lot, but if you don't do it 10 years down the road, you're redoing all the framing in your home and you've got a major issue. So it's really educating about the value add of it, I would say. And we've done that through a variety of methods, and we're improving on that. You know, that's something that we're always like, how can we better educate? How can we better tell people about this problem? But, you know, we've done everything from, you know, some video tutorial type stuff of being under the home to, you know, we have over 40 like long form blog posts that are 1,000 words plus that, you know, see on average, you know, a lot of them see like, you know, 1,000 readers a week. So people are asking these questions. And that was a big part of my campaign when I started, is like, what questions are people asking? So in the SEO world, like doing keyword research of like, what are the pain points people are experiencing before they even know they have a crawl space, right? Like, why are my floors damp? Why are my floors like sagging? Or what's that musty smell in my house? Like, people are asking these questions, but they don't know what a crawl space is. So we have to capture them in that discovery funnel up front before they know they need the service, and really build that brand authority and trust. So that's one of our biggest goals in like the kind of organic marketing for sure.
And a hurdle
and biggest obstacle.
Yeah. And I'd say a hurdle or obstacle too, Madeleine, is no one lives in their crawl space or basement for the most part. So, you know, when you're having those conversations with your spouse or your partner, like, hey, do we want to get the bathroom remodeled, or do we want to get our crawl space repaired? You know, that's a conversation. So the education, we've become far more savvy on. Johnny's done a good job with this, but even our inspection process of incorporating videos to show homeowners, hey, here's what your crawl space and basement looks like, even though you never go down there. And like right below your feet, where you got this nice granite countertop and new cabinets, it literally is very, very unhealthy. And eventually that will affect the way your home performs for you and the value. You know, a lot of times people sell the house. This happens a lot. The kids are taking over the house from mom. She's moving, you know, on to assisted living. They haven't taken care of the crawl space, and there's $20,000 of framing and termite damage that they're having to pay out of the closing because their crawl space was unattended to for the last 25 years. And so just slow education. But you're right, it's not like a cleaning service or mosquitoes. You know, we have both of those services, right? To what you're into at my home, because my kids go outside. My wife's like, they're getting bit by mosquitoes. They can't play outside. It's terrible.
Yeah,
right?
like an immediate pain where you guys don't necessarily have that for long term.
Yep. And I think on the competition side, positioning ourselves in the market as we are the experts. Your guy that does bug spray or termite treatments or whatever is not a crawl space expert. This is just an add-on for his business or her business. And just trying to position ourselves out there as the experts has been one of our big pushes. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that so far. The name helps. Yeah.
Yeah. And on that, you've got these companies that are like pest control that will do a vapor barrier or something like that. But with our direct competitors, we really try to be a better value than them, because like you said, it's not the sexiest thing. It's not like, oh, did you see the pool the Joneses got next door? We need to get one of those, and you don't live under the home. So a lot of our direct competitors will quote, $15,000, $20,000 to do the work. And we try to stay in that $4,000, $5,000 range on most of our jobs. So just giving that value add is a good way we can compete as well.
That's great. And I'm curious. So a lot of times with home services, direct mail still does pretty well because it's an older demographic still. They like the mail, whatever. Valpak still works for me. And no offense to anyone who's listening that works in Valpak, but I don't want it to work. I don't understand it. It is just like a catalog of thin ads that like my kids use them as like confetti, but it works. So does direct mail still work for you? You guys mostly heavy digital?
Go ahead.
We're mostly heavy digital now. We've done direct mail, Madeleine, and it hasn't been incredibly successful. I don't want to write it off completely. It's something we may revisit, but we've used direct mail more so for business development. So we'll actually do like hand signed cards to businesses that could be potential lead sources for us. So we've treated direct mail more of a personal touch point with lead sources that will be ongoing, like pest control companies, HVAC companies, stuff like that. That's really how we've utilized direct mail and seen success.
I know the guys in Columbus, it might not have been Valpak, it might have been RSVP or one of the other mailer. They had a pretty good successful campaign. I know they've run it twice, which is kind of the pack of postcards. And I do still think it's kind of like email marketing. I kind of have the same thing. Like, why does this still work? But it does. Yeah. It does, right? Like,
I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand, but it does, right? And some of it's probably the age demographic of who your customer is, Madeleine, is probably real similar to like who our ideal customer is too.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that business partnership, because so many franchises ask me, how do I have my franchisees make a, partnership for referral back and forth and that sort of thing. And I've tried to do it myself, and it's difficult to do. So talk to me kind of about your process around that, especially since you are seeing some success.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. And Johnnie, you can add on.
Sure.
So some of it, Madeleine, is starting, when we started, we didn't have a website. We didn't have Johnnie. And so we started really culturally. I would say it's still a big part of our culture me and Evan just went out and really was real estate heavy. And so it was the only leads we got for about a year were B2B leads. People started calling us and finding out about us, but it was really heavy. And so it was all we had. And then that kind of bled into like, I was thinking like, okay, what about pest control? We compete with them sometimes. Sometimes we can work together. And some of it was my natural affinity towards like, I just like people. I like to get out and meet people. And so now when that kind of culturally stayed, and I think because our business is niche, Madeleine, one thing that might be different than say what you're in is B2B customers understand it quicker because they're like, okay, I understand a crawl space. Like, so say an HVAC vendor, a guy that does heating and air. It's like, yeah, my guys are in crawl spaces all the time. They're wet, they're muddy, and we're putting in these new ducts and it looks terrible. That's a great lead source for us. And they like the idea of teaming up with a crawl space company. So their job looks better when it's done if we come in and put a new vapor barrier in. And so some of it is the niche nature of it. And no one's ever come and pitched doing a B2B partnership with them a lot of times like we do, but it's heavy real estate because any agent will tell you like one of the worst things to get back on an inspection report for them is, okay, the crawl space or the basement's soaking wet or there's water in it. That's a deal killer. And so some of it is just kind of the industry we're in really works well with the real estate, but then there's other businesses too, like HVAC. And so when we train a new franchisee, one of the components of that training is taking them out, doing business development with them. go into a leads group with them, whether it's BNI or in other groups. There are other cities, there's better groups. Like, hey, participating in these groups will get you leads and lead partners over the long haul. And so doing that in complement to what Johnny's doing digitally has really worked well.
Yeah.
But some
And
franchisees do it better than others,
Yeah.
on the B2B side. So,
and on top of that, Madeleine, I try to facilitate and back up digitally. So, we create a BD hit list basically where, between John and I, like I'll go in these new markets and I'll just grab every business that has positive Google reviews. I'll drop them in a spreadsheet. I'll creep out their decision makers, find them online so that we have marching orders for our, director in each market. Like these are the people you need to talk to. Meanwhile, I'm dripping them email campaigns with, added content like, hey, this is how we can help. Hey, meet Tom. So they've seen Tom's picture in an email campaign before Tom gets there, right? It's about those like multiple touches. And then they get a piece of direct mail in and they're like, oh, these guys again, right? So it's really about that value add for them. With realtors, we do lunch and learns where we tell realtors, hey, this is how you can be the hero for your client is understanding a crawl space. So again, back to education.
And when you're developing a partner with B2B, how do you structure that referral? Is it just basic, like we'll refer you, you refer us, we're just like handshake good friends, or is there some sort of money attributed to it?
Both. But typically I would say 80% of the time, Madeline, it's like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. We'll send you leads for doing duct work and you send us leads for doing crawl space. But there are times where we get a really good lead source developed where we figure out a way to where it can be like, hey, how do one of the difficulties is like the owner or the general manager of a big company might like, yeah, we want to work with you. He pushes that down to his techs in the field who don't know me or our company. So sometimes we've worked out deals where it's like, look, I'll meet with their sales team who are the techs out in the field and say, look, if you guys get us into a crawl space where we can do a job, I'll send you a $50 gift card. And so, because you know how expensive leads are digitally, $50 for sold jobs, nothing. If at our price point, which average job's about $4,000. So, so sometimes we get into that, but that's typically later. Like as you've kind of like, okay, these guys are legit. They want to work with us. And I'm like, okay, can I come in and meet your sales team and bring in food and talk to them and get the guys, their team that's actually out with customers. Like, guys, if you can get us in and they have a legit need and we can help your customer, I'll reward you with a gift card, So,
and another big value add for a lot of our B2B partnerships is just that turnaround time. For realtors, if we tell them you're going to be our partner, we're going to get out there same day, next day, where the competitor is going to tell them 2 weeks. That's a huge value add. Or, HVAC people are just like, yeah, we'll get out there while you're doing your job and we'll get that vapor barrier laid. They know we're partners and we're going to rock it out and get there and expedite the process. So that's a huge value add.
Priority scheduling on production for real estate agents that we work with is a big deal because they might, hey, closings in 2 weeks. Maybe our schedule's 4 weeks, but we figure out a way to maneuver our schedule to get them in. And they know that all that stuff really helps build those relationships.
This is great. I feel like this is a masterclass for both like franchisees and franchisors because they always, for the franchisors, I feel like they recommend doing it, but there's very rarely ever home office support. So then, of course, you've got the franchisees that are just maybe making a call and it's not the best situation. So to Johnny's point, to have that digital backup, they know who the guy is before they even show up is so important. So on top of that, while you're providing support for your franchisees and you're growing through FranDev, which we'll get into a little bit in a minute, but how do you create this culture that people want to be a part of and want to work together? Because it's very easy to create a culture in a juice franchise or a retail franchise. Crawl Space Medic is pretty different and definitely takes a specific person to want to be in it and passionate. So how do you guys from the top down, create this culture that people want to join and want to stay in?
Yeah, Mal, that's a great question. Part of I would say our success there is we're still smaller franchisor in the sense that To be honest, a lot of the franchisees we have are still friends and family,
You know?
and they've been very successful. And a lot of our growth has been them buying more units. But I'd also say too, a niche we have is we're blue collar. The way we say is we're blue collar professionals, and we try to recruit guys that are professional, but they're also like, I really like the idea of working in the dirt and in a business that's dirty, and that's just might be how they were raised, what they were doing. Then they went corporate, they want to come back. That culture is something I'm real comfortable with, and Evan's real comfortable with, and we've been able to recruit kind of high level folks in that kind of share our values in work ethic. But it's blue collar, and we're still small enough that is the franchisor, Evan and I still take calls from our franchisees all the time. And I love that. I don't ever want to get away from that, but that helps build the culture too. And we've done this twice now. We have up in Pinehurst, North Carolina, we have our annual meeting. Everyone comes in, and that's 2 days long. And there's about a half a day of business meetings there where we're talking about system-wide update and things we need to work on. But it's really just a lot of fun. We play golf, go to dinner, and getting guys to buy in. But I think that one of the keys is just promoting, like we're blue collar professional guys, and we like the dirt. We like to work in the dirt. It's kind of the heartbeat of America. That's kind of what we're promoting. And we've had good success recruiting guys, and that's our culture. All of our franchisees typically also, we tell them, look, because this is what we did, we want you to learn the business. So you're going to have to be comfortable. I mean, you may be coming from a corporate white collar background, but are you comfortable spending 3 months coming home dirty and learning this business? And so that's part of it too. Just on the recruiting side, who we want in this, they got to be professional. They got to understand business. They got to be driven, but they also have to understand at the end of the day, this is a dirty job. And we love that. I love that. That's what I want to do. And so I think that's helped the culture, and we'll have to keep managing that as we grow. Those cultures grow. It's a lot more work to keep that tight. We're working through how to do that.
Some other really cool things as well. You mentioned the Pinehurst trip, but we also do weekly, sales calls and production calls where, all the different directors and franchisees can hop on, and we compare what were our successes last week. How'd you sell that job? Like, what are you struggling with? Having that sense of community, so you're not out there in the field by yourself. You're talking to other people that are going through the same thing as you. You're seeing their successes, their failures. There's that open line of communication with them to be like, man, you're crushing the sales. What are you doing? What's so special about what are you doing right now? So that's super important. And then just like, being open about like what we're doing on the marketing side and talking through, our struggles, our failures, what's working, what's not. We developed a marketing council recently that's meeting monthly now for any franchisees that want to join. So that's when they get to grill me about, what's going on, what's working, what's not. We share our data. We can get into data a little bit if you want, but we've got Natalie over here who's a data mastermind. And, so showing the proof in the pudding, right? And being transparent and open about things is super important to create that culture.
And on those calls, I'm glad you brought that up. So Wednesday, we do kind of an operating call, Madeleine, where it's about revenue and production. And we have weekly P&Ls that we share with our franchise of all the KPIs, the numbers, and we're talking through labor percentages, material percentages, and really getting, whether they're corporate director or franchisee director, those guys are very locked in on that production call and sharing labor issues, material issues, and successes. And then on Thursday, we have the sales call where we're going through our conversion rate metrics and top line sales, conversion rates, leads, all those things. And so we bring those guys into those 2 calls weekly, and we're putting the metrics out there. And then that gives us,
it creates competition too.
Creates healthy,
it gets fun. People have fun.
Guys are very competitive, but also lets us kind of evaluate, okay, this group's struggling a little bit. They don't have great answers to some of these questions we're asking, and they're behind on their metrics. And it gives us a good or this group's crushing it. What are they doing different? And those calls are very valuable. And we bring in
Like
right from the
right
franchisees to be on those calls.
right now, for instance, we're one of our markets is crushing it, and the marketing team is taking a deep dive of why, right? Like, why are they crushing it? And then there's like two branches that are struggling. The marketing team's deep diving and doing like specialized email campaigns for those markets, like to try to put a shot in the arm and help them out. So without those meetings, I wouldn't be informed a lot of times. So marketing being really informed on what the revenue is and what are the goals of each market really helps us help them. And so that's a huge part of it as well.
Yeah. And I think, going back to what John said, owning the fact that it's, blue collar, getting down and dirty. I know a lot of franchises in, a similar kind of more blue collar space, but they try to frame it in a white collar kind of rose glasses where it's, you don't actually have to do the work, but this and that. And, even in home cleaning, you don't have to clean the toilets, but while that might be true, and there's obviously different sorts of management structure, at the end of the day, you need to know the work, and there has to be some sort of connection or passion to the, what you're doing and in it day in and day out. And I think that for you guys, creating that culture and creating that community of, yeah, if you're not down to get dirty, this isn't going to be the right franchise. And clearly you guys are seeing success by just owning that up front instead of having to, frame it maybe different for quicker growth.
That's the first call. That's the first conversation. Hey, I get it. You're coming from this background. Tell me about yourself, because you get it, Madeleine, in cleaning services. If, one of your crews, 2-year crews, 3-year crews call out and you got jobs scheduled, well, someone's got to go clean the toilets, right?
Yep.
Same with this. It's like, hey guys, like, what are you going to do? And that's one of the questions I asked them. Hey man, you might have a great thing going with your teams. Well, you got a problem and there's a week where, one of your teams is out or they're on vacation, like revenue production can't stop. And so are you going to be willing to go do the work or figure out a way to get the work done and train? And so a big part of our push is that just upfront. And we've had success, and there's plenty of guys and girls out there that are like, yeah, I love that. I'm want to get out of the cubicle and out into the world, into the open air, into the dirt, so we love it.
I can tell you there's plenty of people, and I am not one of them. Like I literally, my kids make fun of me because I won't even step on the grass because to me, grass is dirty. And they're like, oh my God. So anytime they're in trouble, they come to the back.
You gotta touch grass, Madeline.
They're like, come and get me. Even as a little kid, there's pictures of me on field trips. Like I'm sitting on the tar and everyone else is sitting on the grass having a picnic. And they're like, I don't know what's wrong with her, but
that's why
whatever.
That's why the cleaning service is good for you. Like things clean.
Yeah. clean everything, bleach everything.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. We are coming up on time, but I have two kind of bonus questions that are always the favorite. So John, I'll give you the first one and it's kind of a two-part. So how do you define success as a franchisor? And does that differ from how you define success as a franchisee?
Yeah, that's a good question. As a franchisor, I would define success really are our franchisees hitting their set goals for their business. And, at the end of the day, they entrust us with their money, the fee, the startup, the sunk operating startup cost, and year one, are they able to hit their financial goals? And my team's job as the franchisor is to come around them and give them everything we can to make them hit their goals. So franchisor success for me is that. And some of that's very personal to me. My brother owns 2 units. Evan's uncle owns 2 units. And so, Thanksgiving dinner is going to be awkward. If
you're having chicken and not turkey.
Yes. So that is to me, it's like unit level success of our franchisees all day long. Understand those metrics. My team understand those metrics. How many leads they need, how many sales they need, how much production they need to produce. All those things that go into making them successful. And then as a franchisee, I think it's really the same. I think does the franchisee, and I think this is what you're asking. If not, you can stop me. was it worth it for them to leave what they were doing or invest in this long term? Is it satisfying? Are they making money? Do they see a path for long term growth within our system? Will they buy more units, which I think is a key indicator? Like, do our good franchisees are like, hey guys, where else can we go? We're having tremendous. Are they building out their own teams? To me, looks is successful. Like, hey, are they hiring production managers so they can scale their own businesses to support more units? And so franchisee, I think it's almost the same answer in my mind. We both win that way. But I think for me personally, the satisfaction is the relationships with my franchisees and who I consider all good friends. That is not always easy. Like, hey, there's things you got to work through. And then are they being financially successful in their investment, which they've entrusted to us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. It has to be a win-win.
Yes.
Okay, Johnnie, your turn. If you could give one piece of advice to a corporate franchise team, what would it be? And what's one piece of advice you'd give to franchisees?
I'll keep it on like my spectrum, right? One piece of advice. I think it really is, having someone that can champion you and audit your digital. And that doesn't have to be an in-house person that you hire, but I think someone that can just check in on what these agencies are doing for you, that you trust. It's a third party that doesn't stand to profit from it. I think so many people, and this goes back to my kind of intro origin story of SEO, so many people, get hoodooed. And I think just having that audit, someone there to audit, and it has to be informed by really strong data. So two part to that is like, making sure that you keep really strong data, whether that's sales data in your CRM versus your digital data. You got to compare those things. So I would just say being able to successfully audit your digital is so important. Because if you don't do it well, you waste a lot of money. Pay-per-click ain't cheap, and we've wasted a lot of money even with me here. It's something we're always improving on, So yeah, that would be my one piece probably. And then I think, for the franchisees, just like one thing for them is share your information. So if you see something going on in your market, share it with the corporate team. Like, let them know what competitors are doing. Let them know trends in sales you're seeing that maybe we're missing, because we're not there. We're not on the ground, and you are. And giving us that power to succeed with your knowledge is super helpful.
I love that. And everything you guys have talked about is spot on. We are at time, but I want to say thank you so much, John and Johnnie. If you guys want to connect with them on LinkedIn, it's Johnnie Matthews and John Dando. Make sure if you want to be part of this franchise, you're ready to get your hands dirty. Literally.
A lot of fun.
Clearly, they are very picky about who comes in on the franchise system, and for good reason. Everything I'm hearing is spot on. So I think we're going to see a lot of success through Crawl Space Medic in the upcoming months and years. Thanks again for coming on, and thanks to our listeners. And we'll be back soon from The Art of Franchise Marketing.
Thanks, Madeleine.
Thanks, Madeleine.
Thanks for listening to The Art of Franchise Marketing. This show is brought to you by Netsertive. We help franchise brands and multi-location businesses run localized digital marketing at scale. To learn more, visit netsertive.com.